Sorry for the rant. Oh my God. Apologies for the rant. It got started on the wrong foot talking about Nigeria. So it's good evening, everyone. Welcome to Crypto Pulse Week. Um, Apologies for starting a bit behind schedule. Led off into a premature discussion on Nigeria and sort of um, distracted us. So today, welcome once again. For everyone that has followed my advice as regards, taking position, trying to buy the dip, I'm sure you'll have banked some significant profits now. And like I said before, just as a side comment before we start, Bitcoin is one of the very few assets in the world that you actually have access to information, substructure information, information of what's happening within the assets class itself. For the most part, and for most other assets, you do not have the benefit or the privilege of knowing what is going on. And if you followed me for the last 10 weeks, you will notice that I've persistently been saying that the cycle is still on, that this is just a correction, and that the correction is seemingly dragging on because market makers are more or less trying to push the price down. But the on-chain metrics, which I always refer to, are always suggesting that we're losing liquidity on the exchange, and we're still losing liquidity as I speak. So, having said that, let's dive in. A number of interesting stories today. There was one I just saw now. It's not on this it's not on the news today, but it was a quick statement from Kathy Wood. Kathy Woods is one of the biggest institutional investors in Tesla. They also invest in MicroStrategy, but they're very huge in Bitcoin investment, and she was projecting a 500K. My projection is 300 plus before the year ends. It will get there and it will come down sharply. At which point everybody know they need to sell off. So most people will sell off at 300. Most people will sell off before then buy back, then sell off again at 300 because all of a sudden they will realize that this thing is still going on. Or my prediction for the year is 300 max. I think we've seen a local bottom, as I've always said, and as I will show you on the charts. The monthly Bitcoin chart has a 12-month moving average that has not been successfully breached in the last 6 months. So it's more like from April, May, June, July. Yeah, April, May, 4 months, in the last 4 months, sorry. So since April, May, June, July, the market has tried as much as possible to breach the 12-month moving average. And I explained then that it wasn't breached, and I didn't think that it was going to be breached because it was a significant moving average, and there was no way the market will still stay bullish if we break that 12-month moving average. So, having said that, let's go on to today's news. 1 second, please. Trying to open up my chat. Okay, so in today's news, we have a number of market updates. One is that we have the local bottom in because we've recovered from the low 30s. Two is that there's volatility in the market, beginning to see volatility in the market. Three is that the next serious resistance is actually at 42K. Some think it's 40K, but the next serious resistance is actually at 40K. Oh, sorry, 42K. Also, there's been a lot of regulatory, like say fires now, regulatory fires against finance globally. So I keep reading different countries coming up with different stuff. It's almost like a concerted effort to try to catch finance. But because, like I always explain, because of the legal entity setup, the way they've structured the organization, it's very difficult for you to catch them. So you will only significantly have to deal with the local entity that represents Binance within. Sorry, please, my Instagram is seizing. I don't know what's going on. So it's been interrupted. I don't know. Yeah, that's a bit strange. Please give me a second. This guy's on Instagram. Give me a second. Let me just see if I can. Uh, see. Yeah, should be fine now. Yeah, I think. Yeah, it should be fine now. I think it was a VPN messing up. So basically, there's been a lot of clampdown Binance, and I think one of the things that sparked it up was that Binance was selling stock tokens. I don't know if you guys are aware of. They were selling stock tokens. Um, that raised a lot of red flags for regulators across board. So I think it was Germany that first raised the red flag that you can't be selling stock token of stock without being registered as a securities company within the entity. So because of that, immediately other entities and other countries just picked up on that and they started dealing with them. So they delisted. In fact, I think they got an expert order to delist from. I think it was from Hong Kong first. It was Hong Kong that gave them, that they needed to delist immediately. They delisted in Hong Kong, then all of a sudden they cancelled it altogether. So now, most of those stock tokens are no longer available on Binance. So because of that, you will see that there will be some adjustments within Binance. They're beginning to make some. I don't want to use play to the gallery, but they're beginning to more or less try to adjust their operations to suit the demands of the regulators. So that's about regulation. The other ones, there's this crypto proposal within the U.S. Senate. Two of them actually. One of them is that the Treasury, U.S. Treasury, should take care of and oversee the issuance of U.S. stable coins. The other is around, governance of exchanges and all that. But it's still in the works. There's still a lot of back and forth. And knowing the U.S. political system, because institutions are now beginning to get into crypto, I won't be shocked where you begin to have crypto lobbyists hammering down on any of those regulations that just filibustering any of the regulations that are being brought forth. But that's in the offing, definitely. I expect to see a lot of noise from tax bodies as well, like the HMRC and the IRS of this world being interested in, how people are cashing out. So we expect to see that coming year. In terms of general news, this is I've not read the details, but in itself, it's very funny that the police, which is the Poland police headquarters, discovered that there was a mining operation within the police headquarters. I mean, I'll say that's very gangster. I mean, I don't think it will be outside the what's it called, the confines or the knowledge of the police officers themselves. But to say that there's a bust on Bitcoin mining, and it's happening within the headquarters of police. It's very interesting. So they said there was an illegal mining operation going on within the police headquarters. I didn't get the details. Well, it tells you that it's not only you that's interested in Bitcoin, even the police all over the world are looking at it. And I understand in Nigeria as well that police officers do accost people now and demand to see their phones with the hope of getting some cryptos on it and forcing them to transfer. So if you're in Nigeria and you're working at night, you're better off not carrying your crypto phone, as I would like to say, around. Because yes, you might run the risk of being robbed cryptographically. But yeah, it's real. The awareness is there, so please be careful. Just as a side note, PwC I've come to say that the recent price hike that we've had in crypto is because of institutional investors. Well, while this is partly true, it's not entirely true. So what people don't understand is that the market makers are still the ones that have majority of that are in circulation. So out of the 18 million plus Bitcoin that have been mined, for instance, let's say 3 million is lost, and then about 13 or 12 million is sitting with the whales. So we only have per time, we only have between 1.8 and 2 point something, 2.3 million Bitcoins in circulation at any point in time. What that means is that the significant holders, I mean, blue whales as we call them, are still the market makers. If they decide to start dumping their Bitcoin on the market is going to fall. And what some of these institutional investors don't realize actually is that these guys have so much Bitcoin because they've been so early in the adoption. They have so much Bitcoins that they will definitely still be in the control of the market for the next, at least for the next 4 years, because they have a lot of Bitcoins and the price of Bitcoin has significantly grown. I mean, from 60 cents. So imagine somebody buying Bitcoin at 60 cents with $1,000. It's actually almost unimaginable now. You know, 60 cents, $1,000. So that's the kind of depth in volume that the market makers have. But usually, because the market makers are playing the market, let me use that word, they can't exit and enter positions like most of us that will just go and sell our 0.01 or 0.1 Bitcoin on Binance. No, they have to do it in a systemic and strategic manner. And that's why you have that week of playbook that's stockbrokers use. And I think that they've used that in part as well. And what that does is that it allows them to exit their position without necessarily causing the chaos on the markets. So it allows them to slowly offload their positions if they want to sell without causing a market crash. And if they do want to cause a market crash, they will just offload at a faster rate. So what they've done, they offloaded at a faster rate. And then all the newer traders and newer investors sold off in panic. Then they started buying back. So for the last 8 weeks, which is in July now, which is the beginning of the end of May, whales have been reaccumulating, and I'll show you that in the next in a few slides now. Whales have been reaccumulating silently and steadily. So what is essentially is that they sold for profits. Then the newer investors sold out their Bitcoin in panic, thinking, this thing is going to shit. And then they're going to buy back, and they've been buying back steadily. When they bought back to their satisfaction, then they start to layer the price up again. Now, for most traditional investors or the general persons on the markets, people are only attracted when the prices are going up. Nobody wanted to buy Bitcoin at 27,000. Meanwhile, that was the best opportunity to buy Bitcoin. By the time we get to next week and Bitcoin is 50,000, everybody now wants to buy again because all of a sudden it becomes attractive. Then by mid-August, when it's back to all-time high, then everybody starts talking about Bitcoin all over again. So because of that market psychology, the market makers position themselves at the cliffhanger of the people's market psychology. So when people are most scared, is when the market makers are accumulating. When everybody is too excited, is when they're selling off. So I won't be surprised that we're going to get to 65K and the price will just blast through 65K, that like it never existed. And then it gets to 100 and everybody sells of it. And then it keeps going. Then everybody starts buying back at 150K. And then it gets to 300 and poof, while everybody's still excited, it's going to 500 and the market just exits on everybody. So as I said, my personal projection is 300 plus before the end of the year. Might happen faster than that, but that's my projection for this year. And everything seems to be lining up in that order. So in terms of the recovery, well, I think we've had a local bottom. on that Sunday night when the price did a 10% gain in 2 hours on 3 hours, about $110 million dollars later in shorts. But what then meant was that there's something called funding rates. Funding rate is is the ratio of the amount of other opportunities derived by the amount of people long on Bitcoin versus the amount of people short. When funding rate is negative, it means that there are more people on the short positions than there are more people than there are on the long position. Funding rate has been negative for more than 4 weeks, and it's still negative actually. And as a matter of fact, because of the last week's dip, people were thinking that there was going to be a further sell-off on Monday morning. But what happened on Monday morning? So in my projection, I thought, okay, maybe we will see a retest of 32,270 because there's a CME gap at 32,270. But what eventually happened was immediately Monday opened, the market just took off and went straight to 35. And of course, that was the beginning of problems for everybody that was short. And then, for people that are short, because they are trading on borrowed money against the market price, when they need to close their position, they need to buy Bitcoin back. So because they were also buying back, they were contributing to the price gain. So right now, funding rate is still negative, and there's still a number of people shorting Bitcoin at 40,000, just to mention. But I think more people will be liquidated this weekend. By the time because this weekend is the beginning of a new month, and options expiries are finished today. So there are no options that are going to pull down the price. Then the new month starts at the weekend. I think this weekend is going to be quite interesting, personal opinion. So that's the story for Bitcoin. I saw this interesting story about Deka. Deka is one of the biggest investment management company in Germany. And as of this week, we already heard that they're considering allocating funds into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies generally. You will have remembered that I said there was a law coming out in Germany that will allow institutional investors to position in the market. That law was put in effect this month. So on the backbone of that, there's going to be a lot of euro money coming to crypto. And as if to prepare for that, Bitstamp. Bitstamp is one of the earliest centralized exchanges. Bitstamp has begun to issue an euro stablecoin. That started last week. I didn't carry it, but I did notice that they started issuing an euro stablecoin, which means they were laying in wait for this opportunity with, the big European economy. Germany is the biggest economy in Europe, so it's inevitable that there'll be a lot of institutional investors looking to weigh in. There was another interesting story that I didn't carry, which was about MicroStrategy. Actually, three different stories. One was that there was a Q2 loss because of the drop in value of Bitcoin. So some people are saying, okay, yeah, going to affect that. And he said, well, it doesn't affect any. A Q2 loss, a Q1 gain, and a Q3 gain obliterates completely whatever you're talking about, because what it means is that by the end of Q3, which is effectively September, Bitcoin is going to be over the all-time high. So whatever Bitcoin they bought, they will still be in profit. So it will have totally obliterated whatever loss that have been incurred. And as a matter of fact, I read the statements when the CEO was saying that they bought some Bitcoin again at 37K, they bought some at 33K, and that if they had more, they could have bought it for even double the price. And somebody was like, okay, is this not risky behavior? I think that those guys actually understand these things more than many of us. And I think some of the big money hedge funds, and not just hedge funds, family institutions, sovereign wealth funds, pension funds have actually observed this thing, and they're beginning to shift in their allocation. So I don't have MicroStrategy's investment breakdown, but if you see the SEC filing, you see that there are very silent, conservative investment bodies that have invested in MicroStrategy, and they've invested in MicroStrategy in the last 1 year, meaning in the last 12 months. So what it means is that they didn't invest in MicroStrategy before now, but they saw what MicroStrategy was doing and they decided that, you know what, we want to have a Bitcoin play, an indirect Bitcoin play, and I think MicroStrategy was that exposure. So you have things like the Netherlands Sovereign Wealth Fund. There's an insurance company there. Quite a large number of, a very wide spectrum of investors that are new investors, major investors to MicroStrategy stocks. So as I said before, if you're into stock, MicroStrategy is one to watch out for a very long time. I think that stock will eventually beat all the Teslas of this world, hands down, actually. So I think it's one to watch out for. I'll be looking to buy MicroStrategy stock once we get into bear market, because then it will drop sharply because people will think Bitcoin has, died, quote unquote. But I think they will always be a very good buy because of the strategy they've adopted of keeping Bitcoin on their balance sheet. In another news, PayPal has said that they are going to expand their crypto services. So they want to have what you call super app access or something. I was reading this stuff, I didn't quite get it clearly, but basically my interpretation of it is it looks like they're going all in. And I mean, you can't blame them. PayPal and their counterparts have made huge amounts of money in the last 1 year, huge profits on the back of offering Bitcoin services or cryptocurrency services. It just makes sense. And they are one of the earliest big players in the space. So it just makes sense if they're planning to double down. I mean, considering that people like Visa and MasterCard are already sitting on the fringes, waiting to see how they can partake of this bounty as well. So I'm not surprised that PayPal is trying to do that. Same thing with Square. Square is also trying to create a Bitcoin hardware wallet and decentralized wallets for Bitcoin on using the Square's payment platform. Secondly, they're planning to integrate Bitcoin payments or crypto payments into Twitter. I don't know if you realize how big Twitter is in terms of coverage, but if you introduce crypto payments into Twitter, it's almost double the. I mean, if you introduce Bitcoin, let's take Bitcoin. If you introduce Bitcoin payments to Twitter, you've almost doubled the network availability of Bitcoin, because I don't know what the current figure is, but Twitter has like billions, almost billions of users now, and it's very active all over the world. Everybody's using Twitter one way or the other. So it's a huge one, and I think this guy, what's it called, Jack Dorsey, has committed to already doing that. If you watch the discussion between Jack Dorsey and Elon Musk the week before, so when they were talking about Bitcoin and all that, you will see that the posturing for Square is that they're going to significantly enlarge their Bitcoin operations. For those who may not be aware, Square is the owner of Cash App. I know many people know Cash App, but many people don't draw the correlation that Square is the owner of Cash App. Yeah, I was trying to look for the information on Twitter. So as of 2020, Twitter users were 108. That is massive. So Twitter owns Cash App. Square owns Cash App. Cash App is planning to integrate into Twitter such that you can pay people via their Twitter account. I think that's massive. I know it's probably going to happen probably before the end of the year, but it is massive. Last week I brought this news about Amazon saying they were trying to get into. They've come out to deny it officially, but again, look at what they're doing. Don't look at what they're saying. They come out to deny it officially that they're not doing anything of such, but there's still a posting on their job board within Amazon looking for a digital assets lead within the organization or outside the organization. So while they are openly claiming not to do so, they're secretly plotting how to do so. So again, many people say, okay, what's going to happen to crypto and Bitcoin after the bull run? Yeah, after the bull run, I mean, if the price goes to 300 or goes to 500, then it drops 60% from 300K. 60% drop from 300K still makes it us above 100K. So what I keep telling people is, yes, the price will drop, but unlike before, where everybody usually just runs away thinking that the end has come for Bitcoin, people will just be on the sideline at any site or any sign of, excitement. People will buy back into the market. So I see the price going up. I think we may not see 30K again once we hit. We may not see 30K again once we hit a new all-time high. And if it does hit my projection of 300K plus, what it then means is that the new bedrock be like 100K or around that region will be the new lowest low for Bitcoin. So yeah, that's that about Bitcoin. I just want to mention that it's important to put in perspective because what would then happen is in January and February when the price crashed, Bitcoin has crashed 60%. But you ask yourself 60 wait, because 60% from 360 is still over 100K, which is 3x or 200%, 300% or 400% from where we are now. Really. It's important to keep that in perspective. And again, I keep saying that the underpinning theme that I want everybody to keep in perspective over the last 2 years or over the last 1 year is the story of adoption. It's very strange for you to have the price of an asset or a commodity going down and the adoption rate is going up. So regardless of what the price of Bitcoin is saying, and I've always said that, the reality is different from what's apparent or what appears to be the reality. So what appears to be reality was that price of Bitcoin was dropping. However, whales were buying. Whales are buying like I'll show you the details next slide. Whales are buying like crazy in the last 4 to 6 weeks. In another news, Ukraine Apex Bank is now officially licensed to issue digital currency. I understand that they will be working with fintech companies within the country. So fintech startups within the Ukrainian country who are planning to issue digital assets will now have to work with the central bank to issue digital currency. Of course, I told you about Nigerian Central Bank last week trying to do a digital currency, but like most things that come out of Nigeria, unfortunately, very ill thoughts of and most of the time done in a rush and without proper thinking. I think our best bet as a country will have been to leverage on the Bitcoin network partly and say, we're going to move 1%, just 1% is fine enough. 1% of corporate treasury and 1% of the earnings of the country into Bitcoin. If Nigeria did that, of course, it will to send the price of Bitcoin crazy as a side effect. But what it means, and I keep saying it, and I hope that one day somebody is going to hear me, is in a position of power, and can talk to the government. What it means is that portion of the sovereign wealth of the country is not going to be subject to the deflation, or not the deflation, the devaluation of wealth across the world because of the US dollar. Because no matter how much oil we sell as a country, or no matter how much gas we sell, we're still getting paid in dollars. And as long as we're getting paid in dollars, the US dollar is the global currency, and the country that controls that currency can determine the circulating supply. And it's basic economics. You increase the supply, you drop the value. So no matter how much wealth the country is making, it is still being devalued at the same rate at which the US money printer is printing money. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about El Salvador, because they put themselves on a path to build themselves out of this conundrum, so to say. Because what's going to happen is, initially the Fed came out and said, this inflation is transitional. How did they put it? It's transient. Like, it's something that's just going to come and go. But in reality, what they're saying is that inflation is going to be here for a number of, and it's a very dicey for people that understand macroeconomics. It's a very dicey situation because you cannot increase interest rates because then there'll be a run on the banks for debts. Everybody will want to collect their debts because people will not be able to afford the interest on the debt. Corporate organizations will not be able to afford the interest on the debt. So there'll be a vicious cycle triggered, just like the last financial crisis that was triggered by the what's it called, a subprime mortgage. There'll be a call on debt, and if there's a call on debt, then everybody will default, and then the economic system will crash. So between now and that's the last economic crash, IMF, the conglomerates of central banks, and essentially all the world governments, they've been trying so hard to make sure that the world doesn't get into that position again. But it's inevitable because they keep printing money. And, I'm not saying printing money is bad, but I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. It is bad, but I'm not saying it's bad. But what it means is that it's a good solution in the short term because when you print money, you stimulate the economy. Let me put it that way. It's like a tired body or somebody that is tired drinking energy drink. If you take energy drink, especially the ones that are not sugar free, it's a yes, it's bad but not bad. If you take energy drink, especially the ones with sugar, of course, I'm talking from experience, you will get a sugar rush and then you get a caffeine rush. Then you get taurine rush as well. So caffeine, taurine, and sugar are very, very, very good psychostimulants. So they'll pump your central nervous system, your alertness level will go up. But it's just only for a time. After a few hours, you need another shot. Otherwise, that alertness is going to go away. So in the same way, when governments print money, it's a very solid short-term measure because it pumps the economy. Everybody's happy. Infrastructure is going on, projects are going on, government is spending, corporates are spending, corporates are borrowing money. There's a lot of money to go around. Unfortunately, if the money supply is overwhelming real sector productivity, you're going to have inflation. So what has happened for us in COVID situation is that people have not worked. We've not really produced so much in the last 18 months, but there's been a lot of money supply. And I don't know about you guys, but where I am right now, I can see that the amount it takes me to do grocery shopping for the family has done more than 50% increase in the last 1 year. Personally, when I look at the figures, I look at how much it takes to stock my basket filled in Tesco to how much it takes now. It's gone up. It's almost like 50% on some of the items, and it's across, but it's happening all over the world. It's just worse in places like Nigeria because you already have intrinsic bad policies that are running the monetary policies aground. So it will have really helped us instead of the government trying to, go into digital currency, just allocate a portion of the country's treasury, a portion to Bitcoin. What that means is you've indemnified that portion of the country's wealth from, the global devaluation. Well, unfortunately, well, it looks like nobody has prison, nobody's interested in doing that. So, like I told somebody, I hope that we not end up in a situation where we get up asking somebody to come and buy us. Anyway, let's go on. In the last 4 weeks, it appears that on-chain, Bitcoin whales have acquired $5.2 billion worth of Bitcoin. That's over 130,000 Bitcoins that's been accumulated by whales. And that's what I was alluding to a few minutes ago, that when market makers want to exit and enter position, they can't exit and enter like we do on exchanges. They have to wait for the prime opportunity. And the prime opportunity is usually, exit when the market is most excited, then enter when the market is most depressed. So what happened is, what triggers this whole sell-off was one whale that sold 3,000 Bitcoin in one fell swoop, in 1 hour actually, back in April. That was the beginning of this trigger. And initially I thought it was just going to be like 20% or a 40% drop. But it looked like the other ways just felt that, if this guy can successfully take profits, why shouldn't we? Actually, I think what happened was when those guys saw that Tesla took 10% off, of their gains. They just felt like, you know what, if Tesla that just came in January or February can be taking gains, why shouldn't we take gains? So they decided to sell off. So when the sell off triggers an excitement in the a negative excitement in the market because people has crashed. So people prefer to sell their shares at a loss and then uh and then go and buy back when the market is going up. I'm getting some questions. Well, I mean, you should have you should have you should have dove or dived into the market a week ago, actually, because that was the first time. The market, I mean, it was barely sitting above 30K a week ago. And that was when I was saying, we might not see Bitcoin at this prices for long. And it's a good idea to buy now. If you have not bought, well, you have you are significantly shortchanged. But if you are thinking of buying, you better buy before the end of this month. That's just tomorrow, because what's going to happen in August and September is going to shock many people. I'm not going to say beyond that. So if you are hoping to buy Bitcoin, I think you should just buy it now, because what's going to happen in August and September is going to shock a lot of people. I'm not going to say more than that. But like I've always tried to say, we have reached the local bottom, and all the metrics have come to align, and now the price is going to align that we have actually reached the local bottom. Um, for people who hold USDT, yes, you can buy Bitcoin right now. You can also buy some more coins. I also was going to talk about Solana as a spotlight for. And the reason I'm talking about Solana is Solana doesn't get the airspace like some of the other crypto. It's actually a very good smart contract platform, and they secured significant funding in the last 3 months. Actually, got significant funding in the last five. Um, it will be a very good long-term play, along with likes of Ethereum, Binance Chain, and Polkadot, and Cardano. Um, they already are also. I think they just started their first smart contract program project launching on Solana. So I expect to see some fireworks on Solana. But generally speaking, Solana is a good long-term play, same as Cardano, same as Binance. Um, the same way I mentioned the same way I mentioned Axie Infinity. If you remember Axie Infinity, did I mention Axie Infinity? I think it was selling between $7 and $9. Axie Infinity is now selling for $40. And that's just less than 4 weeks ago. Um, and because Axie Infinity is sitting astride NFT and gaming, which are very, very hot areas in crypto, I think we can expect to see Axie Infinity in the hundreds in the months to come, if not before the end of this year, because the price appreciation is already very, very astronomical. So Solana brought it back because some people are asking about it, and I said yes. I talked about it this year already. I think you should still keep an eye on Solana. It has not made any drastic move. Yes, actually got it got to $53. And I mean it got to $53 after first getting to $50 last week. So I don't know what's going to happen this weekend. Maybe it's going to go to 70 or 80. But I think actually is a good, I mean, both on the asset acquisition and on the speculative play. Also, some people that are trading, Axie Infinity also provides a very good trading opportunity. And they can see a lot of speculative crypto money going to Axie Infinity. And they're making a ton of the game itself is making a ton of cash on the side. So I think it's a good buy. Well, buying it up, that was what you said last week with Lukman when we talked about Axie Infinity, where you said we buy it up at $40. But you can see now $40 or 42 is now the bottom, apparently. Until this bull run is over, I don't think we're going to see a significant bottom for Axie Infinity. That's my personal conclusion right now. I thought, you know what, before we go into vital signs, let me pull up the chart for Axie Infinity. I should have it somewhere. Oh, okay, I closed the chart. Sorry, forgot I closed the chart. Just to explain. what's going on there. So for people who are not on the last was it week before the last call, Axie Infinity is an NFT token, and was I mean it's not was it launched? It was launched in May, but since been launched in May, price has just gone crazy, like really crazy. Oh, sorry, not this one. It's, yeah, sorry, it was November. Or it was yeah. The craze started in February. So look at what happened. In February and March went from sub $1 and peaked out initially at $5 in March. Then in April it peaked out again at $11, then came down along with the rest of everybody at the end of crash. Then in June started to turn around at $0.7. So within the last yeah, barely within the last 1 month, it's gone from $3 to $53. So people talk about what do you call parabolic curve. Well, if you wanted a parabolic curve, that's a parabolic curve down there. But because I don't know whether for people who are familiar with trading, there's something called Elliott Waves theory. And Elliott Waves theory basically suggests that price action goes up or comes down in pulses, like sinusoids, and that those sinusoids follow mathematical levels called Fibonacci level. So if I was to plot an Elliott wave for this now on the daily charts, something like that, yeah, which means which means that which means that 42,000 is actually um, significantly going to be the bottom for a while. Um, to answer your question, Lukman, I think 42,000 is the bottom. Now that I'm looking at this through the lens of an Elliott wave chart, um, but to plot it based on length for length, just give me a second. Length for length, we say from top to bottom here is at $8 from top to bottom. From top to bottom here, first wave, that's wave three, uh, $26. So the rule says the third wave cannot be the shortest. So if the last wave, which is the fifth one, is the same as the first or close to the first, then we can say another $25 upward takes us to 70. So I'm still right when I say that might actually, as a matter of fact, if you I want to give you a prediction for those interested price of price of yeah. Yeah, I think we're going to get to 70. I think we're going to get to 70 for AXS before any significant correction. Um, so one more question: do I buy Bitcoin directly or buy a altcoin running Bitcoin? Well, it depends on your strategy. So there is a global strategy for accumulating more Bitcoin, which is to buy altcoin and flip to Bitcoin once the altcoin starts losing ground against Bitcoin, or just buy Bitcoin and hold. So depending on what your strategy is, you can just buy Bitcoin and hold, or you can buy altcoins. Then when the altcoins have gained significantly, you can then buy Bitcoins with them. What that means is that you would have actually gotten more. Uh, a good example is Kusama. So if you bought Kusama, Kusama is currently how much now? 100 and something, I think. So Kusama is like 100 and something now. If you bought Kusama last week and then you sell in October, Kusama is 188 now. If you bought last week and you sell in October, you will see Kusama at you will see Kusama at close to 1,000 in October. Um, I know that sounds almost arrogant, but it's just when you plot the charts and the predictions or the projections, you just immediately see that okay, these things have just done. So it's almost like they just done the first leg their journey. So yeah, definitely Kusama has potential to get to 1,000 from where it is now, and it's 187 now. It peaked out at 600 plus a few months ago in April. So by the time this current pulse or this current wave of the bull run is peaking out as well, Kusama is definitely going to be selling over $1,000. So I can say that I'll buy Kusama now. When it gets to that level, I sell it for Bitcoin. And if I'm planning on holding Bitcoin for a long time, I hold my Bitcoin, or I just sell the Kusama to USDT and wait for Bitcoin to come down a bit and buy more Bitcoin with it. So it depends on how you want to play it. I usually play it through the alt and personal. That's my personal strategy for accumulating Bitcoin and then buy Bitcoins later. But yeah, it's if you can still like somebody else. I think it was the clearly it was while having a discussion. I was like, you still have your money in Naira. I found out very straight that I don't have any savings, any fiat. I don't keep any fiat. I have my savings because for every naira or every dollar or every pound that you have, you are losing the value of that asset. It's not even an asset in the real sense of it. Money is a liability. Money is debt. True sense of it. It's just illegal thing. So it's losing value month on month. For the government to keep the world economy going, they need to keep printing money. And that's why you see the narratives changing around COVID. Everything keeps spinning around and spinning around. And nobody's talking about therapeutics, everybody's talking about vaccine. Then I'm talking about vaccine again, they're talking about vaccine booster already. They need to find something to keep pumping the economy with money. And as long as they're pumping the economy with money, the value of the one you have in the bank is going down. So personal advice, keep your money in crypto as savings. It will fluctuate fairly. Bitcoin fluctuates fairly year on year, but when you try to catch the price year on year, you find out that every year the lows have been greater. So last year's lows was 3K. This year's low has been 27K from bottom. It's not going to get there again. It's not going to pick out at 100. 200 from 27K is 10x. Next year's low will probably be 100K, and people will shout again that Bitcoin's price has crashed. But if you kept your money in the bank, your money has lost 20%. If you had your US dollar, as I said a few weeks ago, if you had your US dollar bank, 100K in the bank at the beginning of last year, it's worth like 75K now, or maybe at the most 80K in true value, true purchasing power. So really, it's not a smart decision to keep money in fiat currency, and I think the banks are getting by. That's why they are being very hostile. For instance, in the UK, trying to block people from depositing money into exchanges, because of course, what the bank does with your money is they take your money, they give you a 0 to negative interest rates, then they give the money to other people who borrow it and they collect interest on it. So the bank is holding your money for you. You are paying them for it, essentially, and they're making money off it and hedging their own bets against devaluation by borrowing other people that money. If the bank borrows at 10% or 4% or 3% or 2%, what they're doing essentially is they're reducing the impact, the overall economic devaluation of themselves and on the money they're holding for them, they're holding for you, whilst your money or your assets is losing value. So please do the needful. Not a financial advice, as they say. Not a financial advice, but I believe common sense is is very instructive in situations like this. Anyway, so I think it's better to just start regardless. I have a friend, a very good friend of mine, he's a senior medical colleague, and he says, well, anytime he sees Bitcoin drop, he just buys more. I said, well, that's the way to do it. That if you average in, anytime you want to sell out, you always be selling at a profit because you're averaging in anytime the price dips. So if you plan on buying Bitcoin, not a financial advice, I think one of the best weekends to buy. No, it's not the best. It's one of the better weekends. Best weekends to buy are the last 2, 3 weekends. But this is one of the better weekends because the price is going to start to skyrocket. Definitely from the 1st of August. You can take it to the, in fact, before the 1st of August, this guy, you've seen the price this week. But it's going to take a different dimension in the coming weeks. Then people will start calling you. All the people that you talk to about crypto will start calling you again and asking, Ross, that crypto thing, feel like say the thing they do somehow. What do you think? Or just know that now is the time for the noise. The noise is going to be very deafening in a few months' time, I can assure you. So in terms of overall market cap, we've seen a 200 billion gain in 1 week. That's the first sign. So 200 billion has suddenly flowed back to the market. Bitcoin dominance has gone up as reflected in the price. But regardless, there's also been a significant inflow. 95 billion has gone into altcoins. So I think we'll have some major movements during the weekend. And I think we'll have some major altcoin movements during the week, this coming week. So whichever way, if you are planning to buy, I think now is the time to do it. In terms of fear and greed index, and see what we've been like past how many months. All of a sudden we're at 53. As I've told you many, many times without number, this is a solid index of when to enter the market. I said when to enter the market was last week or the week before. You can see what 27, 25, 21. Those were the times, the best times. It's shifted now to neutral, which means negative bias is gone. Once negative bias goes, the next thing that's coming is greed, because then all of a sudden Bitcoin is back to all-time high and everybody wants it. But as I've said, it's going to be an astronomical price. Another thing, I will show you the charts when I come to that. Actually, that will be in the next slide. I will show you the chart. Another phenomenon I think is worthy of note. So right now, I think right now we're in disbelief because over the long period of time, we've gone from optimism. Some people have totally lost. In fact, I remember somebody asking me that is the bull run over? And I said, of course, the bull run is not over. The price just started to move. What do you mean is the bull run over? We've not even done anything. The person like, what do you mean? But that one has already done 2 times from all-time high. I said, well, you can look at it from that perspective, but you can also look at it from, the perspective of how many months it actually takes the bull run to play out. In previous years, it takes quite a number of time. It takes over 18 months or 12 months plus for the bull run to fully play out. That we didn't even get to 12 months from halving before this, dump. And that's as opposed to other episodes of the bull run or the halving, this is a time where we actually have unprecedented adoption. And so it's actually a paradox of some sort to see that we're getting this much adoption and then the price is coming down. That I don't think the bull run is up, and I don't think we've seen the peak of the peak price for Bitcoin this year. So right now, most people have flee from where we were at real to disbelief. So right now, people are feeling that this rally is not real. I've seen people come on the screen to say, it's a bull trap. We're still going back to 27K or going back to 29K. Regardless of what people say, some people say, okay, because we're still below the 200 days moving average, and because of that, I don't think Bitcoin out of the bear market. Yeah. Well, I don't think, look what you said, we're in euphoria in April, May. I don't think we really got to euphoria. We really didn't get to euphoria. I think we were just on the verge of flip. If we had flipped 65K, I would have said yes. Maybe I'd gone to 70K. I would have said we were in euphoria, but I don't think we quite got to euphoria before we went back down. I think we were just on the cusp of getting to euphoria. And in fact, there is a very colorful chart called the SOPR. an on-chain metrics that shows when we're that sort of tries to mirror this market psychology diagram. And at the euphoria, the graph turns blue. It has this color coding. At euphoria, the graph turns blue. We didn't quite why we didn't on that chart on chain metrics, we didn't get to blue in April before the price started coming down. And that was one of my strongest convictions that the bull run was not over. The bull run cannot finish without getting to euphoria. We never got to euphoria. We never had a blow off top. So right now, people are still like, okay, yeah, I don't think this rally is real. The rally becomes real next week when Bitcoin is selling above 50K. Then everybody will be like, we need to get back inside. And then, of course, because there is now lesser Bitcoin, think about it this way. There's now lesser Bitcoin. We reverse from Fido, yes. There's now lesser Bitcoin in the circulation than where we were in April. That's the truth. Whales are now holding more. Many of the new wallets that got in excited, that got in around this trio area, that sold off when the market was crashing. They've lost their Bitcoin now. They are sitting on the side in disbelief, thinking this thing is not real, maybe it's still going to go down. But immediately it pops 50K. All of a sudden, people realize that we need to get it. And well, it's going to happen as quickly as we got out of 35K range. And I mean, we got out basically 4 hours, like just went from 32 and pam. It was already sitting at 35, 36K. So I think we're going to see some action this coming weeks. Yes, I wanted to show something on the charts to explain what is this guy. Yeah, I wanted to show Bitcoin chart, explain what I was saying. Show the daily chart. So yes, I wanted to show this chart because this pattern where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9 consecutive days of bullish candle on the daily charts tells you that there is a strong trend that is building up. So one, at the bottom here, you have what you call a bullish engulfing candle. A bullish engulfing candle is when the candle that follows a bear candle. The bear candle is a candle going down, is the pink one. Is a lot smaller, is slightly smaller than the next one. So this candle here, the blue one, is the bullish engulfing candle, which happened on the 21st of July. 21st of July was which date now? 21st of July was Wednesday last week. So that candle signifies a trend reversal on the daily chart. But usually what technical analysts will say is wait for confirmation of the trend reversal. Now, if you are looking for confirmation, this was a confirmation. One, because there was no other pink candle that followed it, not in the next day, not in the day after, and not in the days after for a long time. The first one we're having 9 days after. The last time this happened, just to put it in perspective, was in December last year. Here, when we went one, in fact, it wasn't even here. It was in December. It was in December when we had like 6 days back to back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. When we had 7 days back to back, bullish candle, and the price was around. It was in December. The price was around 25. Price was around 25K then. But usually when you have in an uptrend, which is what this is actually, this is in uptrend. If I switch to logarithmic scale, you see that this is actually a big uptrend just playing out. And in an uptrend like you have here, when you have a bullish engulfing, you have another bullish engulfing now at the end of January, and that was what catapulted the price to the peak that we had in April. When you have that bullish engulfing, usually market will wake up formation, which is the next day. When the next day is not lower than previous day, it means that the trend reversal is confirmed. This is another bullish engulfing here, not as big as the previous one, but again, even though the confirmation failed here, but by the second day it corrected itself, and you can see a significant upside. So what am I saying? If we go by the same metric and say after each bullish engulfing, the price does 7% in this case. This other one, another 72%. So if you pound that down to here and pick it up, you see that before we can say we are close to any serious resistance, we'll have to get 55K. Now, the juicy thing about this is if we get to 50K, all the biases will immediately reverse, and then that will contribute more to the pump because everybody will suddenly realize that 29K was actually the bottom, and then everybody will start piling in, and because everybody will start piling in, it pushes the price further. So really, we've seen a local bottom here. Farm. There is no other. But let me put this. So there is this. Okay, so there is this school of thought that says we're still bearish because we're below the 200-day moving average. The same way we literally dropped through it in May, the same way we literally cut through it again. I see that happening this weekend or anytime in the coming days. And of course, for many people, especially long-term traders, when people are watching out for this and saying, you know what, we're going to wait for this moving average. Once this moving average turns, or once the price crosses this moving average, then it's all over. Then there are another school of thoughts that believe that what we have just done is a double top here, meaning that we've reversed at the last point of trial when we try to break back upwards. I don't think that's the case because the on-chain metrics that I've been sharing for the last 3 weeks, exactly the same. Exchange supplies are going down, whales are accumulating, miners are accumulating. So I think we're going to have a breakthrough and flip the 200-day moving average. By the way, let me show you the 12-month moving average. The 12-month moving average I was sharing a few weeks ago. I was trying to explain that this is what has been happening. So this is the logarithmic scale, which shows us the monthly price charts of Bitcoin since inception, since 2016, at least on this chart. What it tells us that we have been essentially an uptrend since the beginning. And if we apply the same principles of find out that that was our first correction, this is our second, and then we still have a long one to go on the weekly chart before we can either think of a long-term consolidation or a long-term correction. What that means is that because we've not been able to breach it, and you can see it here. So this was May, this was June, and this was July. We've not succeeded in breaching the long-term 12-month moving average. This is my confirmation that the bullish trend or the bull trend is intact, and we were just a consolidation and correction. So now that we've taken the correction, you can see you have a bullish engulfing again on the monthly chart. Bullish engulfing I showed you was on the daily charts. I can show you the one on the weekly chart as well. Confirm. See, there's another bullish engulfing on the weekly chart as well that has shown that we have a reversal. When you have a reversal across 3 major structures, the reversal is intact. The reversal is confirmed. I don't care what anybody or any YouTuber is telling you, what any YouTuber is saying. This is classic reversal in the price of Bitcoin. So anybody who's thinking about buying Bitcoin will actually have bought. You should have bought at the end of last week, but it's not too late because you're definitely not going to see this price for a while. And because of the volume of money that's coming in, so you have this German or European inflow coming in from German institutional hedge funds because of the law that now allows them to invest in Bitcoin. You have major corporations thinking about allocating capital, more people trying to allocate capital to cryptocurrency. So it's inevitable. You can say I'm a Bitcoin bro. The fundamentals suggest that we've never left it. So I think with those words of mine, I will conclude. The last thing I wanted to talk about was Ethereum London hard fork. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's been in the news for a while. The hard fork is an upgrade. Uh, it's like updating your Windows. You know, when you get version upgrade from Windows and say you need to restart the system, but it's not exactly the same way because forks are upgrades are applied across the network, meaning that when the upgrades are pushed across, all computers that are participating in the network need to apply that upgrade. In the case where not everybody agrees to the upgrade, the majority will carry the vote. So in this case, the majority of the Ethereum miners support the London hard fork. And what the London hard fork is supposed to do is to prepare the Ethereum blockchain for Ethereum 2.0 upgrade. Ethereum 2.0 upgrade is going to take Ethereum from proof of work to proof of stake. I will have to explain that in another day at another time. But the essence of proof of stake is that it's supposed to reduce carbon footprint and it's supposed to reduce the cost of mining and all that. But I'll discuss that in a later time. So Ethereum London hard fork is happening on the 4th of August, which happens to be Wednesday. I think we'll see some mild price increase in price of Ethereum. Might shoot Ethereum back to that. Expect to see that in the coming week. So the hard fork here is a total upgrade of the network, means that the network take on a new structure essentially from that day. I mean, people who are not on the network, really, you won't know anything, won't feel anything. Uh, but because this is a hard fork, you might see different options when you now want to move your Ethereum maybe from MetaMask to wherever. You might see different options on the network because now it means that you now have a new network that transactions will be taking place on. So that's all I have for this week. I've overshot my time by 8 minutes. If you have any questions, please do type them in if you're on Instagram and I'll answer them. If you're on Zoom, you can type them in the chat as well. And I'll answer them. So Axie Infinity, Solana, and KSM be held long term. Well, yes, they can be held long term. If you want to hedge your bets, you can take out your profits at the end of the year, before the end of the year, in which case you would have made significant percentage returns on them. And then you can determine whether you want to reinvest them when the market crashes or you want to buy other cryptos. But Axie Infinity is positioned to do very well. They will have contenders, of course. And the reason they do very well, let me look for that with their website, is because the gaming token, yes, the gaming token is already live. So you need it if you're into gaming, you find out that for you to break some levels in gaming, you need some quote unquote enhancements or some implements. So for many games that like games on phone, they call them in-app purchases. So if you play Axie Infinity, you will need some AXS to get some things done on this game. And apparently the game is interesting. I've not played it. I had in mind to play it, but I never got a chance or I never got time to actually settle down to look into it. For Axie Infinity, I think they're very good play, at least for the next 2 years. KSM definitely. I have a bias for KSM because it also has very low circulating supply. And because it's Polkadot, and I think Polkadot is a very business-minded blockchain. When the institutional investors get what they're doing, they're going to be all over them. Solana, yes. Solana, because Solana now has venture capital funds, so more structure has come in. It gives them potential to invite more institutional money, if you get what I mean. So if you have a venture capital invest in your business, and they give you initial funding. Chances are, if you get by for the next 2 years, they'll give you Series B funding, give you mezzanine, they'll give you another level, then they take you public. So chances are much more funds are going to come in for Solana um, in the long term. So yes, the three of them. If I sell my Solana, I just take profit. I'll probably buy it back. I'll probably buy it back later. Between Bitcoin and Ethereum, which one will give the best ROI? I mean, it goes without saying, Ethereum is going to give the best ROI. Um, but it's a game of timing. So you need to time when you switch, and the switch is almost like a craft. And most big investors do the switch all the time. So they buy Ethereum when the market is down. Then when Ethereum starts gaining against Bitcoin, they buy Bitcoin. And then when Bitcoin has gained against Ethereum, they sell it back to Ethereum. Um, in so doing, they're accumulating more on either side of the device. So if they had one Bitcoin before and they use that one Bitcoin to buy, let's say, 10 Ethereum, and then Ethereum grows a lot um, and overshoots its previous high in Ethereum Bitcoin pricing. Then they sell it to Bitcoin and acquire 1.5 Bitcoin. Then they sell it back to from Bitcoin to Ethereum and acquire this time maybe 20 Ethereum. So yes, it takes some getting used, takes some crafts of some sort of or skill to switch between the two. But plainly speaking, Ethereum will outperform Bitcoin in terms of simple ROI. In the short term, I mean, Bitcoin might outperform Ethereum, but what usually happens is, and that's why you see this Bitcoin. I didn't show you Bitcoin dominance charts. That's why you see Bitcoin dominance charts going up. When you see Bitcoin dominance charts going up, it means that um, whales are moving money from either USDT or Ethereum or what's it called? Altcoins. They're moving money from altcoins to Bitcoin. Where is Bitcoin dominance? Yeah. So when you see Bitcoin dominance growing up, I mean going up the way it is right now, so you can see. Uh, I remember I was having this discussion about Bitcoin dominance peak bottoming out at 39% back in March or back in May. When you see Bitcoin dominance going up the way it is now, there's a lot of money in Bitcoin. So people would stick with Bitcoin. Once this begins to tank, and I think the best we can do for this period is 50%. I doubt if it will stay there. It's not been at 50% since April. I doubt it will be able to retain 50% because already it's showing signs of pulling back. So we got to 49.8. It's back to 48 now. So once it shows signs of weakening, major investors just immediately flip to altcoins. Some just flip between Bitcoin and altcoins. Some flip between Bitcoin and many other alts. But to answer your question in summary, yes, Ethereum will give more ROI, definitely. So think about it. Ethereum is how much is Ethereum now? Ethereum is about 2,300 or thereabouts now, 1,350. If Bitcoin gets to 300K, which is how many? Which is nearly 10K from 10x from where it is now. Then Ethereum is likely to get to like 25 or 30K because Ethereum has more institutional adoption now than it ever had before. And a lot of institutions actually pay more attention to Ethereum than Bitcoin because of the technological play with Ethereum. So yeah, it will. Ethereum 2.0 is an upgrade like the London fork, but it's a major upgrade that is creating a lot of so that I'm reading out somebody's question on Zoom that they want to know more about Ethereum 2.0. It's a major upgrade on the network that will mean that one, it's going to go to proof of stake, meaning you don't need to have a machine to mine Ethereum. You can just donate your Ethereum and the miners will share with you the profits of the mining. Two, it's meant to also reduce the amount of transactional fees. Three, it's meant to make Ethereum deflationary. So Ethereum is inflationary right now. But the inflation, its inflationary position is about maybe like 1.2 or 2 point something per annum, meaning it actually increases in the circulating supply every year. But that's in response to transaction and response to mining. But what Ethereum 2.20 is trying to do is to actually make Ethereum deflationary, meaning reduce the circulating supply by destroying a fraction of the transactional cost. So instead of the miners getting on transactional cost, fraction of the transactional gets destroyed. And when gets destroyed or burned, as they say said in crypto speak, it reduces the circulating supply, effectively reducing the available supply and then making the remainder of the Ethereum volume more valuable. So that's the simplest way I can break it down. I don't want to start going into complexities of the blockchain technicalities, but that's what Ethereum 2.0 is going to do to Ethereum, and that's why it's getting so much buzz and attention. Because when that happens, Ethereum has now become inflationary like Bitcoin. So that's why there's a lot of noise about it. But the consensus is not strong because the miners and developers feel, nothing out of it. But the majority of them agree that, it should be deflationary and that, the transaction costs shouldn't be so high. Somebody, I think it was that asked about Axie Infinity, Solana, and KSM. Yes, they're all very good long term. I think I've mentioned Binance Chain. I think Binance Chain is very good long term. BNB. I was looking at somebody's screenshots in 2000 and that was last year actually. Was it last year? And Ethereum was 120 and Binance was like 25 or $26. It was already, I mean, it looked so unreal. But you will be shocked what it will look like. What it will look like in the other 6 months. And we're saying, oh, there was a time that Ethereum was 2000 and BNB was 300. So now is the time. Now is the time to position. We don't have any other question. I think we're good for today. Yeah, I didn't see any question on Instagram either. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining. See you again next week. Next week I said I was going to talk about some. What was that? I think it was about talk about function and upgrade next week. All right. Have a lovely weekend, everyone. See you again next week. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you, bro.
Cheers.